Let me tell you why most motivational advice is garbage. It focuses on getting you pumped up instead of building systems for consistency. It sells you the excitement of starting something new rather than the discipline of finishing what you've begun. It celebrates the sprinter who burns bright for a moment instead of the marathon runner who shows up day after day. Look at the most successful people in any field. They're rarely the most talented. They're usually not the smartest. They're almost never the ones with the most natural gifts. But they are, without exception, the most consistent. The truth that the motivation industry doesn't want you to hear is this: your feelings and motivation don't matter nearly as much as your consistency. The difference between success and failure isn't talent. It isn't resources. It isn't luck. The difference is consistency. Right now, someone with half your talent is becoming twice as successful because they've mastered the art of showing up every single day. I want to tell you something that might change your life forever if you truly hear it. Success doesn't come from what you do occasionally. Success comes from what you do consistently. That's it. That's the secret hiding in plain sight that most people never grasp. Look around at the people you admire most, the ones who've built something remarkable with their lives. Dig beneath the surface, past the obvious talent, past the lucky breaks, past the advantages that they might have had. What do you find? Consistency. Day in, day out, rain or shine, feeling good or feeling terrible. They showed up. They did the work. They didn't just do it when inspiration struck. They did it on schedule whether they felt like it or not. You see, most people don't have a performance problem. They have a consistency problem. They know what to do. They might even know how to do it, but they don't do it consistently. And that's where everything falls apart. I remember talking to a gentleman some years ago, smart fellow, talented, had all kinds of good ideas about building his business. Every time we'd meet, he'd have a new strategy, a new approach, a new plan. 6 months would go by, and I'd ask, how's that new strategy working out? He'd say, oh, I've moved on to something else. Another 6 months, another idea abandoned. Another fresh start. After 5 years of knowing him, do you know what he had built? Nothing substantial, because he never stuck with anything long enough for the magic of consistency to take hold. Now contrast that with another business owner I knew, average intelligence, no special advantages, but she picked a solid business model and stuck with it every single day for years. No jumping from strategy to strategy. No shiny object syndrome. Just consistent execution of a sound plan. Today she's worth millions. Not because she's brilliant, because she's consistent. Here's the truth: is boring. It's unglamorous. Nobody makes movies about it. The montage in the film lasts 30 seconds, but the real consistent work behind any achievement takes years. Your favorite athlete doesn't just show up for the championship game. They show up for Tuesday morning practice when nobody's watching. For years, that's where success is built. Most people want the results without the consistency. They want the body without the consistent workouts. They want the wealth without the consistent saving and investing. They want the skills without the consistent practice. Life doesn't work that way. It never has. Now, I'm going to tell you something that might surprise you. Consistency isn't natural. Your brain isn't wired for it. Your brain is wired for conservation of energy, for taking the path of least resistance. That's how we survived as a species. So when you try to be consistent with something challenging, you're fighting against your natural wiring. That's why it feels so difficult. Understanding this is crucial, because once you recognize that consistency doesn't come naturally, you stop beating yourself up when you find it hard. Instead, you start looking for systems and structures to help you overcome your natural tendency toward inconsistency. I learned this lesson years ago with my own reading habit. I always intended to read more books. I bought them, I stacked them on my nightstand, but at the end of the year, I'd only finished a handful. My problem wasn't desire. My problem was consistency. So I made a tiny change. I decided I would read just 10 pages every morning right after breakfast. Not 20, not 50, just 10. It seemed almost too small to matter, but here's what happened. 10 pages a day became 300 pages a month. That became 3,600 pages a year. That's roughly 15 to 20 books, just from a small daily habit. What changed? I stopped relying on motivation. I stopped waiting until I felt like reading. I built it into my routine and did it whether I felt like it or not. And over time, something magical happened. I started to crave that reading time. What began as discipline transformed into desire. That's the secret most people miss about consistency. It's difficult at first, but it gets easier. The things you do repeatedly don't just get easier, they become part of who you are. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. Those aren't my words. They're Aristotle's. This wisdom has been around for thousands of years, yet most people still haven't internalized it. Look at your life right now. Your current results, your health, your wealth, your relationships, your skills, they're all products of your consistent actions and habits, not your one-time efforts, not your intentions, not your occasional bursts of discipline, your consistent behaviors. If you don't like your results in any area, you don't have a results problem. You have a consistency problem. Some of you might be thinking, but Jim, I've tried to be consistent before. I start strong but always fall off track. I understand. That's the most common pattern in the world. Enthusiasm isn't enough. You need something stronger. Let me share a powerful idea that changed my approach to consistency. Most people try to rely on motivation to stay consistent. But motivation is like the weather. It changes unpredictably. Some days you have it, some days you don't. True consistency comes from commitment, not motivation. Commitment says, I will do this regardless of how I feel. Motivation says, I'll do this if I feel like it. See the difference. One leads to consistency. One leads to sporadic effort. Champions commit to consistency before they feel ready, before they see results, before it's comfortable. They don't wait for perfect conditions. They create progress in whatever conditions they find themselves in. I've studied successful people for decades, and I noticed something fascinating. They're not always motivated. They're not always inspired. They have the same emotional ups and downs as everyone else. The difference, they've trained themselves to do the right things consistently, even when they don't feel like it, especially when they don't feel like it. The professional writer writes even when they don't feel inspired. The professional athlete trains even when they don't feel energized. The professional investor sticks to their strategy even when the market is chaotic. Amateurs wait for motivation. Professionals rely on discipline and systems. If you want better results in any area of your life, stop focusing so much on outcomes and start focusing on consistency, because the outcomes are largely out of your control, but your consistency is entirely within your control. Now let's talk about the real reasons people struggle with consistency, because once you understand these barriers, you can create strategies to overcome them. The first reason is what I call the intensity trap. Most people try to change too much too quickly. They go from no exercise to planning 2-hour gym sessions every day. They go from no reading to attempting a book a week. They go from no business to trying to work 12 hours a day. The intensity might last a few days, maybe even a few weeks, but eventually it becomes unsustainable. They burn out, they quit, and then they blame themselves for lacking willpower or discipline. But the problem wasn't their willpower. The problem was their approach. The key to consistency isn't intensity, it's sustainability. Can you keep doing this for the next year, the next 5 years? If not, you've set yourself up for failure before you've even begun. I've seen people transform their lives, not through dramatic changes, but through small, consistent actions they could maintain for years. The man who lost 100 pounds by walking just 20 minutes a day. The woman who built a 6-figure business by making just 5 sales calls every morning. The author who wrote a bestseller by writing just 300 words a day. Small actions, done consistently, create massive results over time. The second reason people struggle with consistency is what I call emotional decision making. They decide what to do based on how they feel in the moment, not on what serves their long-term goals. I don't feel like working out today. I don't feel like saving money this month. I don't feel like working on my business right now. Feelings are temporary. Goals are long-term. If you let your temporary feelings dictate your actions, you'll never achieve your long-term goals. The solution is to make decisions based on your commitments, not your feelings. Decide in advance what you'll do, and then do it, regardless of how you feel when the time comes. The third major barrier to consistency is lack of clarity. Many people aren't consistent because they haven't clearly defined what consistency looks like for them. Vague goals produce vague efforts. I want to work out more. I want to save more money. I want to grow my business. These aren't clear targets. They're fuzzy wishes. And you can't hit a target you can't see clearly. Dress that way. I will walk for 30 minutes every morning at 7 a.m. I will automatically transfer $200 to my investment account on the first of every month. I will make 5 sales calls every day before noon. See the difference? The second set of statements defines exactly what consistency looks like. There's no ambiguity. At the end of the day, you either did it or you didn't. The fourth reason people struggle with consistency is trying to rely on memory. Your memory is unreliable. It gets clouded by stress, distraction, and competing priorities. If you want to be consistent, don't rely on remembering to do important things. Create systems that make remembering unnecessary. Use triggers. Actions you already do consistently that can serve as reminders for new habits. Use your smartphone not just for scrolling social media, but for setting reminders and alarms for important activities. Use visual cues in your environment, a water bottle on your desk to remind you to stay hydrated, workout clothes laid out the night before, a book placed on your pillow. The fifth reason people fail at consistency is isolation. They try to change their habits without support or accountability. This rarely works. Humans are social creatures. We're influenced by the people around us far more than we realize. If you're trying to be consistent with something important, don't go it alone. Find a workout partner, join an mastermind group, hire a coach, tell others about your commitments. When I was building my business in the early days, I joined a group that met every Thursday morning. We'd share our weekly goals and report on the previous week's progress. Knowing I'd have to face that, group kept me consistent on many days when I would have otherwise faltered. The power of social accountability cannot be overstated. When other people are watching, we behave differently. Use this to your advantage. The sixth reason people struggle with consistency is perfectionism. They believe if they can't do something perfectly, they shouldn't do it at all. This all or nothing thinking is the enemy of consistency. Some days you won't be able to do your full workout. Some days you won't hit your sales targets. Some days you'll fall short of your ideal. The question isn't whether you'll have these days. You will. The question is what you'll do when they happen. Consistency isn't about perfection. It's about recovering quickly when you get off track. It's about doing something rather than nothing. A 10-minute workout is better than no workout. Making 2 sales calls is better than making 0. Reading 5 pages is better than reading none. The seventh reason people struggle with consistency is lack of tracking. They don't measure their consistency, so they don't notice when they're slipping until they've already fallen far off course. The simple act of tracking creates awareness, and awareness is the first step toward change. Whether it's marking X's on a calendar, using a habit tracking app, or keeping a journal, find some way to make your consistency visible. When you can see your chain of consistent action growing day by day, you become reluctant to break it. This is what Jerry Seinfeld called "don't break the chain," a simple yet powerful strategy for consistency. Now, let's address the biggest misconception about consistency, that it's about willpower, that some people are just born with more discipline than others. The truth is, consistent people don't have more power. They've just structured their lives to require less willpower. They've created environments that make consistency easier. They've developed routines that put key actions on autopilot. They've surrounded themselves with people who support their goals. You don't need more willpower. You need better systems. One of my mentors shared a profound insight with me years ago. He said, "Jim, don't count on your motivation, count on your disciplines. This changed everything for me. I stopped waiting until I felt motivated to do important things. Instead, I built disciplines, regular, scheduled actions that I performed regardless of my feelings. Over time, these disciplines became as natural as brushing my teeth." You see, motivation is wonderful when it shows up, but it's unreliable. It comes and goes. Discipline, on the other hand, is something you can develop and maintain. Let me tell you about a principle that changed my life. It's called the compound effect. Small, smart choices, repeated consistently over time, create a radical difference in your life. This principle applies to everything: your health, your wealth, your relationships, your skills. Most people overestimate what they can accomplish in a day, and they underestimate what they can accomplish in a year of consistent effort. They want immediate results, and when they don't see them, they quit. They don't understand the power of compounding. If you save just $5 a day, that's less than a fancy coffee. And invest it at a modest 8% return. You'll have over $1 million in 50 years, not from dramatic sacrifices, from small, consistent actions. If you read just 10 pages a day, you'll read about 15 books a year. In a decade, that's 150 books. How would your life be different if you had the knowledge from 150 additional books, not from reading marathons? From small, consistent actions. If you improve your skills by just one a day, something so small, you can hardly notice it. You'll be 37 times better after a year, not from cramming or overnight success, from small, consistent actions. This is the miracle of consistency. But here's what trips people. In the beginning, the results are almost invisible. And that's when most people quit. They go to the gym for 2 weeks and don't see their body changing. They save money for 3 months and don't feel rich. They practice a skill for 30 days and still aren't experts. So they conclude it isn't working and they stop. But consistency's power reveals itself over time. The results compound, and one day, seemingly out of nowhere, the transformation becomes visible to everyone. The outsiders call it an overnight success. But you know better. You know it was consistency. Now, I want to talk about something most speakers won't tell you. Consistency isn't just about doing the right things. It's also about not doing the wrong things. Being consistent with your exercise won't help much. If you're also consistently eating unhealthy foods, consistently saving money won't build wealth if you're also consistently accumulating debt. Consistently working on your business won't lead to growth if you're also consistently avoiding the hard conversations and decisions. Elimination is a powerful form of consistency. Consistently saying no to the things that don't serve your goals is just as important as consistently saying yes to the things that do. I learned this lesson years ago with television. I used to watch hours of TV every night. I told myself I deserved to relax after a long day. But when I honestly evaluated how this habit served my goals, I realized it didn't. So I made a decision to eliminate TV from Monday through Thursday. I still enjoyed shows on the weekend, but I reclaimed 4 evenings a week. What did I do with that time? I read books. I worked on speeches. I built relationships. And those consistent actions made possible by consistent elimination changed the trajectory of my life. What are you consistently doing that's holding you back? What do you need to eliminate or reduce to make space for the consistency that matters? Let's talk about something critical. The dip is that period in any worthwhile endeavor where things get hard before they get easier, where progress slows, where doubts creep in, where the initial excitement fades and the long middle of the journey stretches out before you. This is where most people quit, but it's also where the magic happens for those who persist. The dip separates the dabblers from the masters, the tourists from the residents, the talkers from the doers. When you hit the dip, and you remind yourself that it's normal. It's not a sign that you're on the wrong path. It's actually a sign that you're on a path worth traveling. Easy paths don't lead to exceptional destinations. How do you push through the dip with systems that make consistency possible even when motivation fades? One of the most powerful systems is what I call minimum viable consistency. This means identifying the smallest version of your habit that you can maintain even on your worst days. Let's say your goal is to exercise consistently. Your ideal workout might be 45 minutes, but your minimum viable consistency might be just 5 minutes of movement. On good days, you'll do the full workout. But on bad days, when you're tired, busy, or just not feeling it, you still do your 5 minutes. This approach ensures you never break the chain of consistency completely. And often, those 5 minutes turn into more once you get started. But even if they don't, you've maintained the habit, and that's what matters most. Another powerful system is habit stacking, attaching a new habit to an existing one. You already brush your teeth every morning. What if you did 10 push-ups right after? You already check your email when you start work? What if you made your most important sales call right after? By linking new habits to established ones, you leverage the consistency you already have to build the consistency you want. Environmental design is another crucial system. Your environment either makes consistency easier or harder. Take an honest look at your home, your office, your car, your phone. Are they set up to support your most important habits or to undermine them? If you want to read more, keep books visible and accessible in every room. If you want to eat healthier, make nutritious foods easy to see and grab. If you want to reduce social media, move those apps off your home screen or delete them entirely. Your willpower is limited. Don't waste it fighting against your environment. Design your environment to make consistency the path of least resistance. One of my favorite systems is what I call consistency triggers, specific events that automatically launch your consistent behaviors. These could be habit triggers. When the clock hits 7 a.m., I will. When I arrive at the office, I will. Preceding action triggers. After I pour my morning coffee, I will. Amidst timers, when I feel stressed, I will. These triggers create automatic launching pads for your consistent actions, reducing the need for decisions and willpower. Another system that's transformed my consistency is the power hour. This is the first 60 minutes of my day dedicated entirely to my most important habits and priorities. No emails, no phone calls, no social media, just focused time for the few things that matter most. During this hour, I read, pray, plan my day, and exercise. These actions set the tone for everything that follows. By winning the first hour, I dramatically increase my chances of winning the day. Here's what I want you to remember about consistency. It's not about perfection. It's not about intensity. It's about showing up day after day, especially when you don't feel like it. Consistency isn't exciting. It doesn't make headlines. Nobody's going to congratulate you for doing what you said you would do today, especially if it's something small. But consistency is the silent builder of excellence. While the inconsistent person is searching for shortcuts, the consistent person is quietly building a foundation that will stand the test of time. I once asked a highly successful business owner how he managed to grow his company from nothing to an industry leader. I expected a complex answer about strategy or market timing. Instead, he said, "I just kept showing up. When my competitors took breaks, I kept working. When the economy crashed, I kept serving customers. When better opportunities came along, I stayed focused on my core business. I just kept doing the basic, necessary things without fail." Year after year, eventually, everyone else fell away, and I was still standing. That's the power of consistency. Let me leave you with this thought. 20 years from now, what will you wish you had been consistent with starting today? Your health, your relationships, your finances, your spiritual growth, your career or business? Whatever it is, don't wait for perfect conditions. Don't wait until you feel ready. Don't wait for more time or resources or confidence. Start today, start small. But start, and then show up again tomorrow and the next day and the day after that. Force yourself to be consistent, especially when it's hard, because consistency is the ultimate competitive advantage. It's available to anyone willing to pay the price. Most people won't pay it. They'll continue jumping from goal to goal, from strategy to strategy, from opportunity to opportunity, always starting, rarely finishing, never allowing enough time for consistency to work its magic. But you're different. You understand what most don't. You know that extraordinary results come from ordinary actions performed consistently over time. So go now. Decide what matters most. Create systems to support your consistency. Find accountability. Track your progress. Push through the dips. And watch as the miracle of consistency transforms your life, one small action at a time. The difference between where you are and where you want to be is consistency. Force yourself to be consistent, and you'll force yourself to be successful. I want to tell you about a study I came across years ago. Researchers followed a group of people who set New Year's resolutions. After just 1 week, 25 had given up. By the end of January, another 40 had abandoned their goals. By the end of the year, only 8 had remained consistent enough to achieve what they set out to do. That 80 didn't have more talent. They didn't have more time. They didn't have fewer obstacles. They simply refused to quit. They understood that the path to any worthwhile goal isn't a straight line. It's a series of ups and downs, advances and setbacks. But through it all, they remained consistent with their core actions. When you face obstacles, and you remember this, the obstacle isn't stopping you. Inconsistency is stopping you. The solution isn't to wait until the obstacle disappears. The solution is to find a way to stay consistent despite the obstacle. I once heard a champion marathon runner say, "The race is won in the rainy days, not on race day when the crowds are cheering, not on the perfect training days when everything feels right, but on the rainy days when you don't feel like training, when conditions aren't ideal, when it would be easy to make an excuse." That's where champions are made. Your life works the same way. Your success will be determined not by what you do occasionally when motivation is high, but by what you do consistently when no one is watching and the only force driving you is your commitment to your future self.